World War I was a global conflict that lasted from 1914 to 1918. It involved more than 70 million military personnel and resulted in more than 16 million deaths. It was also known as the Great War, or the War to End All Wars. One of the causes of World War I was the complex network of alliances among the European powers. Two of the main alliances were the Triple Entente, composed of France, Britain, and Russia, and the Triple Alliance, composed of Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. These alliances were partly based on historical ties, such as common culture, language, or religion, but also on strategic interests, such as colonial. Another cause of World War I was the rise of nationalism in Europe. Nationalism is the belief that one's nation is superior to others and deserves more rights and recognition. Nationalism can inspire patriotism and loyalty, but also aggression and resentment. Many nationalist movements emerged in Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, such as the Irish, the Poles, the Serbs, the Czechs, and the Armenians. Some of these movements sought independence from foreign rule, while others sought unification with their ethnic kin. A third cause of World War I was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, by a Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Principi. This event triggered a chain of diplomatic crises that led to the outbreak of war in August 1914. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, which was supported by Russia. Germany declared war on Russia and France, which were allies of Serbia. Britain declared war on Germany and Austria-Hungary, which violated Belgium's neutrality. Italy joined the Ententes in 1915, while the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria joined the alliance in 1914 and 1915, respectively. The United States entered the war in 1917 after Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare and tried to ally with Mexico. The war was fought on several fronts, such as the Western Front in France and Belgium, where trench warfare dominated, the Eastern Front in Russia and Poland, where mobility and attrition prevailed, the Italian Front in the Alps, where mountain warfare challenged, and the Middle Eastern Front in the Alps, where mountain warfare challenged, and the Middle Eastern Front. Turkey and Arabia, where desert warfare tested. The war also involved naval battles in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and colonial wars in Africa and Asia. The war ended with the Armistice of November 11, 1918, which marked the victory of the Ententes over the alliance. The Peace Treaty of Versailles was signed in June 1919, which imposed harsh terms on Germany, such as accepting full responsibility for the war, paying reparations to the Allies, losing territory and colonies, and reducing its army and navy. The treaty also created new states in Europe and the Middle East, such as Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Iraq. The treaty also established the League of Nations, an international organization that aimed to prevent future wars through cooperation and collective security. The war had a profound impact on the world both during and after it. It caused immense human suffering and loss, both for soldiers and civilians. It also caused social and political changes, such as women's suffrage. The rise of communism and fascism, the decline of empires, and the emergence of new nations. It also caused technological and scientific innovations, such as tanks, airplanes, submarines, machine guns, poison gas, radio, radar, and medical advances. It also influenced art and culture, such as literature, music, cinema, and propaganda. One of the interesting aspects of World War I was the fact that some of the leaders of the warring nations were related by blood or marriage. They were known as the three cousins of World War I: King George V of Britain, Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany, and Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. They were all grandsons of Queen Victoria of Britain, who ruled from 1837 to 1901. She was known as the grandmother of Europe because many of her children and grandchildren married into other royal families across the continent. King George V was born in 1865. He was the second son of King Edward VE and Queen Alexandra. He married his cousin Mary of Teck in 1893. He became king in 1910 after his father's death. He was a constitutional monarch who had limited political power but great symbolic influence. He supported the war effort by visiting the troops, awarding medals, and changing his family name from Saxe-Coburg, Gotha to Windsor, to distance himself from his German relatives. He also supported the creation of the Commonwealth of Nations, a voluntary association of former British colonies that shared common allegiance to the crown. Kaiser Wilhelm II was born in 1859. He was the eldest son of Frederick II and Victoria, who was the eldest daughter of Queen Victoria. He married Augusta Victoria of Schleswig-Holstein in 1881. He became Kaiser in 1881. He became Kaiser in 1880 after his father's death. He was an absolute monarch who had full control over the government and the military. He pursued an aggressive foreign policy which aimed to make Germany a world power and challenge Britain's naval supremacy. He also supported the development of industry and science in Germany and promoted a nationalist and militarist culture. Tsar Nicholas I was born in 1868. He was the eldest son of Alexander Maria Feodorovna, who was the sister of Queen Alexandra. He married his cousin Alexandra of Hesse-Darmstadt in 1894. He became Tsar in 1894 after his father's death. He was an autocratic monarch who resisted any reforms or concessions to his subjects. He faced many challenges during his reign, such as the Russo-Japanese War, the 1905 Revolution, the doom of the Parliament, and the rise of socialism and terrorism. He also supported the Orthodox Church and the Slavic peoples in the Balkans. The three cousins had different personalities and relationships with each other. George and Nicholas were close friends who shared similar interests and views. They often corresponded and visited each other. They also looked alike, which led to some confusion when they met in Berlin in 1913 for their cousin's wedding. Wilhelm and Nicholas were distant cousins who had little in common and often clashed over their interests in Asia and Europe. Wilhelm and George were also distant cousins who had a strained relationship due to their rivalry and resentment. Wilhelm felt insecure and jealous of George's popularity and success. The three cousins tried to prevent or limit the war at first, but failed to do so due to their lack of influence or communication with their governments or allies. They also failed to understand or respect each other's positions or interests. They soon found themselves at war with each other, which caused them great sorrow and regret. The war also led to their downfall as monarchs. Nicholas was forced to abdicate in 1917 after the February Revolution that overthrew his regime. He and his family were executed by the Bolsheviks in 1918. Wilhelm abdicated in 1918. The First World War was a devastating and transformative event that changed the world forever. To learn more, subscribe to Time Traveler channel on YouTube. Thanks.